busted. Tyranny, busted. Tyranny, busted. Tyranny,
Alright, I think we're about to go on live here. We're live.
We're live? Well, welcome to Tyranny Busters. This is Mike Benoit and
Mario Perea.
And we're about to bust some tyranny upon the mind of man. If you haven't listened to us before, let me explain to you what tyranny is. Of course, I might have to explain to some of you what a mind is, but we don't want to go there.
We might want to go there.
That's just mean. But, tyranny upon the mind of man. Anytime a piece of wrong information, misinformation, a lie, an untruth, even people's opinions that are presented as facts, this is a tyranny upon the mind. This is building what we call a matrix, and the matrix is all the experiences and all the times in your whole life where you've seen or taken into your head false information and you believe it to be true and you operate on that false information. As you can see that real quickly, you got a sewer in your mind. If you see that we build this up over a lifetime, and boy, the Tyranny Busters wants to break that tyranny so you can start seeing reality for what it is. Crash your delusions. And Thomas Jefferson spoke to this issue. He said he swore an eternal hostility on the altar of God over every form of tyranny upon the mind of man. And he's talking mind control. So we're here to bust mind control. We want to get you out of the matrix, and let's start living free again. And so from there, Mario, what do you want to get on first?
Well, let's start living. That's for sure. And I think what I want to get on first ties in directly to what you're talking about here, because eternal hostility. You know, as I contemplate these facts of life as they come at me, as I see them, it's overwhelming sometimes with the amount of despair, the amount of atrocities that get committed, and the corruption, and all the badness, and especially as somebody who wants to do good and see the world a good place to live. One thing that I come to when I think about these things, when all these bad things are happening, people are zombies, nobody's listening, and then it comes to me in my mind. I go, well, so at some point people are just going to have to wake up. This has to happen, right? This is, we're going to be treated like crap, and we're going to let these politicians walk all over us, and their cronies walk all over us. But it's only going to last a certain amount of time. This is what I'm telling myself, Mike. I say it's only going to last a little bit of time. At some point, we're going to wake up. The giant's going to break free, and we're all going to rally around this freedom and liberty, and it has to happen because this is what we're programmed as people, to be free, and we're courageous. We just don't know it now because we're living in materialism, and we've been kind of conditioned into being docile, but that's not going to last. This is what I tell myself. So everything's going to be okay. And then at that moment that I come to that point when I say, at some point everything's going to be okay, there's a part of my brain that turns off from trying to stop all these bad things from happening.
I got to stop you right there, Mario.
Okay.
All right? What are you talking about bad things, all right? And what are you talking about things are going to be all right? What the heck are you talking about here? What's a bad thing?
The National Defense Authorization Act.
What's bad about that?
Well, they can, just without any trial, without any jury, the federal government can determine you to be an enemy combatant or dealing with terrorists, and throw you in jail indefinitely. Right? The TSA, you go to the airport, you're getting felt up, your children are being molested by people.
What's bad about that? They're not throwing you in jail. They're throwing you in jail if you smoke marijuana or try to sell it. What's bad about that?
Well, that's bad about that is that we should feel able to not be molested in our lives.
Throw them in jail. They did drugs, Mario.
Well,
and if they drink
okay.
alcohol, let's throw them in jail too.
That's been a law before.
Let's do that too.
Well, okay, so there's the thing,
And
right?
you're drinking raw milk, you're going to jail, boy.
And
that's a good thing.
And this can't last, right? These laws, these perversions of
what you're doing, growing organic vegetables, you're
Yeah.
going to jail for that. That's a good thing.
These are the
what are you talking bad things here?
This is the tyranny that I'm talking about, and so I feel like, well, you know, it's so obvious that these are just total aberrations to a natural life.
So why do you think these are just going to go away, all these tyrannies?
Oh, well, that's what I know exactly. Why do I think this?
What about the IRS? You just think it's going to go away, or they're going to take half of what you produce? Maybe they just say, that's it, everybody works for the government, and we'll just give you food rations, rent rations, gasoline rations, clothing rations, and TV rations. You damn well better be happy with it.
Well, and so we've seen that same type of philosophy, that same type of government implemented into other countries, for example, the Soviet Union and other communist countries, and we see them fall down. And we're led to believe that they fell down because they were, you know, unsustainable on one hand, but that there was revolutions on the behalf of the people that overthrew these things. And so this, like, part of me that wants to think that the world's like a nice fuzzy place to live and everything's going to be all biscuits and gravy. It says, don't worry, Mario. Everything's going to be okay.
You just have to do what the master tells you to do. And if the master wants to sleep with your daughter, you have to let him, and then everything will be all right. If you don't obey the master, then you just go to Siberia. What's wrong with that, Mario? That's what the people want. That's what they want in this country. They want that kind of system.
Hey, well, that's the wake-up call here, Mike, is that the people have implemented this system. So what kind of fool would think that this is going to change it all? And I'm the fool that thinks this, and I think this because I don't want to stress. I mean, it's a bad thing. I don't want to do this. This is a tyranny upon my mind.
Well, you got lots of company. There's lots of fools out there. Everywhere I turn around, I see these fools, and they think it's amazing to me. It blows my mind. I mean, I've been puzzling on this for decades, and I'm thinking, how come these people don't get it? And I'm thinking, how can I explain this to people? And I just, you know, it's like, because it's so obvious to me, if the body is hungry, you get these hunger pains. And if you're thirsty, you get these pains, thirsty pains, you know? And the body's saying, give me water, and the body's saying, give me food. And that comes out. And if you want to be happy, we all know we got to do something to be happy. We know this.
All right.
But liberty, people lose it when it comes to liberty. There's something that turns off the pain for not having liberty and the hunger to have it. Something that drive to be free is turned off somehow in our minds by this illusion that we are free. This illusion has been drummed into us since we were born. You're living in the freest country in the world, boy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what's this income tax stuff? That's the price you pay for freedom. You wouldn't have roads without income tax. A nutty idea that is. And I can't tell how many people have told me that. Gasoline tax pays for the roads, people. The income tax is a slave redistribution tax from you to the master to give to his favorite pet projects, no matter what they might be. He can control you and a whole indigent class of people. That's not freedom.
Well, the power of the purse is just something that is totally overlooked in today's pop culture. We act like it doesn't have any bearing on the direction in which the country goes. It's like saying that the breadwinner of the house doesn't have any direction into which way their family's going to go. That he doesn't have or she doesn't have any say to where the family's going to move to. And this is it, Mike, is that the thing that churns it off in my mind, right? The hunger for liberty is that I'm able to tell myself, well, Mario, don't worry, because this is just temporary. This slavery that you have is just temporary. It's gonna pass, man. It's gonna be okay. So, just go ahead, keep living, man. Just go out and hang out with your friends, man. Have some drinks and, just shoot the breeze, man. Don't worry about these things. It'll go away. Just watch. It'll just go away. And then I have to slap myself. I have to come in and hang out with you in order to, to center myself back into reality and say, this ain't going nowhere. And this is only going to get worse. And we're thinking that because of historical evidence that systems of oppression don't last, well, that could just mean that the ultimate system of oppression hasn't been created yet. And that the worker, the technicians on it just haven't got the dials right. But this damn well could be the time when they got the dials right, and there ain't no coming back from this one.
Well, usually the systems of oppression blow up with some sort of violent revolutionary type activity, and that's when these systems of oppression blow up, and they end on that basis. But until they reach that point, then they continue. Can you imagine a slave on the plantation back in the day? The master took 10% of the production. It took about 90% of what the slave produced for the slave's upkeep, and the master got 10%. Well, in our system now, the modern day slaves, they're under this illusion if the plantation is a much nicer plantation, and they got much nicer standard of living and toys and everything else, but the master's taking 30 or 40%, and he won't do anything to you as long as you keep paying him. Keep giving that to the master. Master shows up there with before you even get your paycheck, and he's taking what he wants first. You get the rest, and you think that that's what you earned for the week, and you didn't earn the rest. You're not acting like you're under this illusion that wasn't money stolen from you. You're acting on the illusion that your net pay is what you earned that week, and so they got this condition of slavery on you that you're not even aware that it exists. To me, I can't understand why people don't look at that paycheck and say, damn, they just stole 20% of the fruits of my labor. They're stealing this money for Social Security that I know darn well won't be there. It's not being money put away from my benefit. But even to get mad at the idea that you have no choice of what's done with your money. That's your product, that's your life, and that's enslavement, and you accept it. And you keep accepting it, and that one day it's going to be all better, ends up in a total collapse. We're in a darn soup line, and the children are standing around, and you ought to be livid with yourself when they're standing around saying, isn't the government wonderful for giving us soup, Mommy or Daddy? Look at the government's giving us soup. Aren't they wonderful?
And we will call them wonderful, and we will. That's the reality here, man. It's not. We don't have this magical point inside of us that once we reach this much of slavery, all of a sudden, we're given a lightning of energy and just start to rage. This is a very sophisticated intellectual process that has to be fostered. It has to be grown. It has to be nurtured. There is no time right now to just go and have drinks and shoot the breeze and think everything is going to be okay. The situation is so critical right now that it hurts me when I know that I come to that position, man. And this is why, and I lose that drive of eternal hostility. It's like there's a mechanism inside me that it's like a drug inside of me, man, and it's tyranny inside of my mind, but it's almost like created by my brain as a way to hide the pain. So that I don't feel my body dying and my freedom being sucked away from me. And I really despise that I have this potential inside of myself to just totally fool myself, man. So this is the other thing here that I want to talk about here, the delusions, man, that I'm really pissed off about here, man. And you know, I'm not a Romney fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I've been seeing these people drive around, and it's getting really popular now to drive around. Everybody's got those little coexist bumper stickers on their cars, and the coexist is spelt out in symbols of all these different popular religions. You know, they got the Islamic moon with the star, and they got the cross there, they got the yin yang, and it says coexist. Well, now the trendy thing is to, next to your coexist sticker, have an Obama 2012 sticker. And it's like, man, are you really? I mean, if I have that ability in myself to drown out the truth, if you have a sticker about coexisting, people living peacefully, everybody being tolerant of each other, and then right next to it have a picture of Obama, the man who is drone bombing multiple countries right now. He has hit lists of people in other countries. He's killing children. They bomb weddings. And you're somehow able to put them both in the same exact area. How do they live in the same space inside of your mind? How does Barack Obama get the Nobel Peace Prize, man?
Oh. I just think I'll shut up now. You just, you know.
Well, that's the other.
What should we talk to these people even?
Oh, well,
you know,
because,
I mean, you're right. And then on the other side of it, I got these people running around, you know, bragging up Romney, because Romney's going to do something about the Keystone gas line pipe or some nonsense. He's going to help really expand oil and all of that, and we're going to have, and they're going, Romney's going to give us security. You're not after security. You need freedom. I mean, we're touching on this about liberty and about the thirst and everything dying for liberty. We can understand if we got a garden there and this garden's producing our food for us, and there's weeds growing in that garden, and they're going to choke out the food that we need to eat. We're going to go in there and pull the weeds.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Yeah. And
if there's things getting in the way of our pursuit of happiness, we're going to pull those weeds out of that.
Absolutely.
But on the Liberty Garden, it's just overgrown with weeds. Frederick Bastiat talks about the law, and the law is not all these volumes and volumes and volumes and volumes of books that we have, federal, state, county, city, you name it, ordinances that are weeds in the Liberty Garden choking out liberty. Bastiat says the only laws we should have are the ones that secure life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those are the only laws we need, probably book that big, like the Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments for society is the same as the law is for government, yet we're operating on totally the opposite thing. We're supporting candidates that are passing more laws like the National Defense Authorization Act, candidates that want to ban a sex shop in our little fair community or a shop where they sell these pipes. My kids are, what's that tobacco, regular tobacco stuff that they like to
hookah.
Smoke? Hookah?
Yeah.
Kids are smoking that with one of them things.
Yeah.
You know, boy, that's just a terrible criminal activity. Can't have that. And so this Liberty Garden is being choked by all these things that are masquerading as laws. And what are the people doing about it? Are they doing anything? Do they show up to a water board meeting or a school board meeting to see what these guys are doing as far as taking their rights away from them? And trust me, they are. That's another little fiefdom for a bunch of people. Or are they going around and saying, educate people on their power in the jury box where you can overthrow these weeds of tyranny that are suppressing and locking up people because their drug of choice is not Jack Daniels and something like that, or through the traffic courts. There's a great book here, Adventures in Legal Land, get it on the screen there, by Mark Stevens, where it can help you fight back in traffic court. But guess what, people, the reason that we're so overwhelmed with all these tiny bits of tyranny that are sucking the life out of us is because you're not weeding the garden. I'm going, why aren't people doing something? I'm going through the list of people who gave money for Ron Paul for president, and some of his best fans gave next to nothing. And I'm going, what's the matter with these people? They'll spend on something to have, a party and a couple $100 here for beer and pizza and all of this stuff. No $200 for Ron Paul, the champion of liberty that's going around, has a national platform and stage. If Ron Paul wins Iowa, we're talking a whole different story now than what we got right in front of us. But 50,000 people gave Ron Paul any kind of money, and some of it was $2 to get those numbers. When we got a country of 330 million people, and I hear people that are in the matrix tyranny on their mind, there's too much money in politics. What the hell? There ain't enough money in politics. Yep. Why not 1 million people to give $100 to Ron Paul that believe in liberty? Oh, there's 1 million people that believe in liberty, but they don't believe in paying for it. They're on welfare when it comes to their liberty, like they're on welfare for their food and clothing and housing. We got this welfare mentality, and it's far worse when it comes to liberty than it is for providing for your own existence.
Well, and this welfare is, causing people to shrink down. They're afraid to speak out because you can't speak out, man. If this guy's giving you all your life, then you can't speak out against this guy. I mean, what are you going to have? This is a severe problem that's affecting the people, man. I mean, I guess with liberty, you're right. From day one, you're told you live in a free country. This is the freest country on earth. I mean, I don't know exactly what point it was in my life that I started to really challenge that idea, but I mean, it probably, 5th, 6th grade, when you start getting in trouble for, talking in class, or you're starting to see maybe your older brothers or your older folks, maybe your parents are getting busted for trivial things, smoking weed, or the police are coming over and they're telling you, hey, you got to turn down the music at the family gathering. It started to come into my mind, and I started to really wonder, am I really free here? There's curfews that are put on you when you're a child. So these are the beginning seeds that start to make you think about that. Now, some people might say that these aren't necessarily restrictions on your freedom, but just laws to govern people and make sure that everybody's safe. But then if you start to if you get a job and then money's getting taken from you, and if that doesn't make you start to wonder whether or not it's been a crock of poop that you live in a free country, I don't know what's going to really shake you, man. I mean, I'm not going to say that we don't have some freedoms, right? But when you just blanket it, like, oh, you live in a free country, you don't have to worry about your rights being violated. You got something else coming to you, man.
Well, you live in a free country. You got the Liberty Garden. I mean, even in the most repressive and suppressive regimes on the planet, there are some degrees of liberty. Okay, there's
right.
some degrees of freedom of thought and some degrees of freedom of movement.
Right.
And so you can convince yourself, but that's this thing when you're taught as a kid that you're living the freest country in the world. That's like being back in 1800, being on a plantation, and the plantation master is saying to you, you live on the best plantation around. Over there, they're beating their slaves.
Yeah.
Over here, you get Sunday off over here, and over here you get clean clothes every week, and you get a bath every week. And nobody uses the whip on you unless you really misbehave. And so you're living on the freest plantation around. You should be satisfied with that. Why aren't you satisfied with that? What's the matter? You're greedy? You want too much? And so you could say in America, all right, we had more freedom than some of these other countries. But not. I don't think that exists anymore. I bet you there's 30 countries that have more freedom than economic and social freedoms than we do in America now. and when we used to be the leader in all of those, and there's 29 other countries that are in a better condition. And my extrapolation on this is, you look at our system was supposed to be a government that governs least, and we got the federal government with tomes and tomes and tomes and volumes, rules, regulations, and control on everything we do. And then you got state governments jumping on top of that, county governments on top of that, city governments on top of that, your parks and recreation, or your this and that and the other thing, and just strangled with regulations. And you say, well, we're free, until you bounce into one of those barriers, and then your freedom's lost. And there's so many barriers, it's harder and harder to navigate around it. You can still say, oh yeah, what are you talking about? We're free. And especially those people that have, the more money you have, the more the greater the illusion is that you're free. But you still got to, look at Romney. This guy probably didn't pay any income taxes, and I only wish, like Ron Paul says, nobody did. We didn't have the darn thing.
Absolutely.
But Romney, he doesn't,
champion that at all.
No, and he's there. He's subject to the master, and everybody's jumping on him, ready to jump all over him because he's not releasing these tax returns to see if he obeyed the master the way he was supposed to obey the master. And everybody's got to do this. And so, look at, he didn't pay that much in income tax, and it's almost like they want everybody to pay more and more. Those guys to pay more and more on income tax.
Oh yeah.
As long as we could steal it from them.
Oh yeah.
And they're not condemning the whole damn philosophy of theft.
Not at all.
That's enslavement.
No, this is how it ends, Mike. This is how the conversation ends on any given one of these AM talk shows, man. They go, oh, Harry Reid, he's calling out Mitt Romney for not paying his taxes. And then they go, oh, how Harry Reid is called, he's talking all this mess about Mitt Romney. How can he dare talk about Mitt Romney? And then the caller goes, yeah, and has Harry Reid let go of has he shown his taxes? And then the talk show host goes, well, gosh darn it, no, he hasn't. So, what a hypocrite. Hey, Harry Reid should show his taxes. And so that's about how far the narrative goes, man. Now it's just, ain't nobody condemning it. No, they're just saying, hey, we should all have to show these things. We should all have to pay these things. And we're conservatives. We're limited government conservatives. But we think Harry Reid should have to show his tax returns.
Yeah, but we can find these guys, and because our federal government needs $3.8 trillion, we need to take that out of the private economy. Give it to our federal government, because
$3.8 trillion,
yeah,
man.
They only got $2.1 trillion coming in, and that's because these guys aren't paying enough taxes.
Man, $3.8 trillion. That is so much money. I mean, what are we getting for $3.8 trillion? Not to turn this into a utilitarian, conversation here, but I mean, this should be something to think about, man.
You're getting all that slavery bought and not paid for, put on the next generation. Past that $15 trillion of debt. That's enslaving. Your daughter is not born yet. That's enslaving my daughters and my grandkids. And their grandkids. That's what we're getting for all of this.
Yeah.
And you know what? If people are just docilely, like sheep, they're called sheeple, I think. They're just going down the little path here. No resistance. I know some of the guys that I know that used to fight and resist this tyranny in government, they're all going, let's just all be anarchists now, because look how bad government is.
That's the drug. That's the drug right there. It's like inside my brain, it just goes, hey, just don't worry about these things, just
be an anarchist, and this bad government's going to go away. We've got enough people just to be anarchists.
Oh, man. So, it's very concerning here. $3.8 trillion, man. I mean, okay, and there's the other crock that they spew on this AM station, man. Oh, Barack Obama, he's giving $5 trillion in new debt. Man, that's exactly how much George Bush gave. Maybe a little. George Bush, I think, $4.2 or some trillion in new debt. But where do these Republicans have any room to talk, man? They are so guilty of all of these same crimes of putting the debt onto the future, man. How do they think that they can like actually have any credibility?
Bar, they don't have any credibility, and it's just like a tribal mentality with them. It's, you know, my red team against the blue team, and
Bloods versus Crips.
Yeah, they'll speak in generalities, and they'll say, oh, those Democrats are all dumbasses, and the Democrats will say those Republicans are all Nazis, and you know, they lump the competition, if you will, into groups.
Collectivists.
Instead of talking about the issues, just like you said, who didn't do their tax return, the issue, let's discuss the issue of slavery through the income tax, and what an abomination, probably the most heinous foisting of tyranny upon the mind of man and free people that ever existed in human history, because of the illusion it carries with it, and because it's an engine that leads us to economic death and destruction. When your life, and you're sitting there with nothing to sustain your life, you're homeless, you've got no pursuit of happiness anymore, people want to commit suicide, and your Liberty Garden is just choked with all these rules and regulations, and you go, where did the liberty go? Why did I lose my liberty? I deserve to be free.
I would challenge. This is a challenge. Go out and ask 10 people what their definition of liberty is. I would really like to see a list compiled of 10 different people's definitions of that, just to see if they even have a definition.
Well, yeah, that'd be a good survey. And I know I have a friend that passed along a few years ago, but he told me a story about him and his friend riding in the truck, and they're sitting there smoking pot, and having a good time. And his friend says, "Isn't it great that we live in a free country?" And then the next moment, the cop's coming up, and he says, "Quick, hide your shit, hide your stuff." And my friend's laughing. He said, "You said we lived in a free country." No, it's. Well, can we move on to this other thing here, man?
What
do you got, Mario?
Well, I got an article here about Rand Paul to address the GOP. Ron Paul still not invited. All right, so. Seems here, Rand Paul, who was elected office in 2010, running on a constitutional platform, supported by his father and other...
Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, I interrupt you. Running on his father's coattails, okay?
Well, I wasn't going to say supported by his father and other philosophically similar candidates.
Well, of course your father's going to say
So, okay, it's Rand Paul. He has a wide libertarian streak running through his politics. During his first term in office, Paul has fought earnestly for the protection of civil liberties against federal intrusions, as well as for an end to the multiple unconstitutional foreign conflicts being carried out by the U.S. military.
Wait a minute, didn't he vote for sanctions on Iran?
Yeah, this is a questionable assessment of Rand Paul and his political career and ambitions.
Okay.
But going on into the article, it says, now even though certain of these positions place him at odds with the GOP establishment, including the presumptive nominee Mitt Romney, Senator Paul endorsed Romney during an appearance on the Sean Hannity show, in which he proved to be a bootlicking coward. No, it doesn't really say it.
No.
It just says Sean Hannity show. That was my own little opinion. So, okay. Given his very public demonstration of support for Romney's run for the White House, it is unlikely that Senator Paul will attack the former governor of Massachusetts directly on those points where their policy positions diverge. Okay. Well, besides, Romney may have given the green light to Rand Paul's addition to the roster to appease the substantial block of libertarian-leaning Republicans believed to be the most ardent of the grassroots activists, and that, if converted to his cause, could potentially swing things Romney's way in November. So you got a little utilitarianism going on here, Hey, Romney's thinking, the GOP's thinking, hey, man, these libertarians, they haven't totally left the tent yet. You know, maybe if we can get Rand in here, he might be able to push some momentum this way. We might be able to get the Big O out of office. So that's what they're thinking. One must wonder, if that's really what they're thinking, why the man called the godfather of the Tea Party has yet to be invited to speak at what is expected to be the coronation of Mitt Romney. Were Mitt Romney sincere and savvy enough in his quest to unite Republicans behind his campaign to oust the Big O, it would seem that not only would he go out of his way to give Ron Paul room to speak, but he would also insist that his erstwhile rival be afforded a primetime spot and enough time to convince his legion of supporters that a vote for Mitt Romney is not a vote for all the things he has fought against for so many years. Namely, a perpetuation of the wars overseas and the steady growth of the federal behemoth that is daily draining the sovereign lifeblood from the states. Regardless of their decision, Ron Paul counts as many as 500 delegates, including many bound to Romney, among those who will be called on to nominate the Republican challenger to Barack Obama. Many of these Paul devotees will be hard-pressed to vote for Romney if he behaves disdainfully toward the man they still look to for political salvation of our republic and the principle of liberty upon which it was founded.
Well, it looks like the Republican Rockefeller Club has welcomed in Rand Paul with open arms.
Come here, Rand!
And you know, this is really funny when people think that you got really a choice in America. It's like the old Politburo in Russia, and that they're these two different political parties, and there's this huge choice between them. There are a couple of rival gangs in the sense that they sit down and they have bipartisan activity on splitting up the territories. In fact, most of the 535 or 435 congressional districts are split up, so you know, Democrats win that one and Republicans win that, and they fight over something to give people this illusion, tyranny upon their mind, that there's actually, you know, a big difference, and they get these people fighting over minutia. And my red team, my blue team, you know, my Romney, man, Romney going to be so good for America. Romney's the hope and change. No, Obama's still hope and change because you give him time. As George Bush gave him a mess, and they're just going to get better. Just keep Obama, and that's how these people, and they just blah blah blah. They don't. And then the real difference, the Ron Paul, that's the real deal. The real difference doesn't give up principles like his son. Well, wait a minute. You can't say Rand gave up his principles. Maybe he didn't have any principles. Maybe, I don't know. It's hard to say. Either he gave up principles or he didn't have them to begin with. He wasn't rooted in liberty. He says, you know, I'm for the red team, and that's what I'm working for here. But so there's some Ron Paul people like Rand Paul because he's got the same last name. He's the son of Ron Paul, and he talks about the Constitution. But these thinking Republicans talk about the Constitution since I've been involved in politics, and if they came into my office and took a quiz on the Constitution, they wouldn't pass the first question. And that first question is, what was the purpose of the Constitution? Mm. And the second question would be, who created the Constitution? Mm. And so they'll tell you the day it was ratified. And
the federal government created the Constitution.
And how many amendments there are, yeah. And they'll go on with that. But still, you get back to the thing that they're not focusing on liberty.
All right.
They're focusing on which is going to give us more security, which is going to give us more jobs, which is going to do this. And that's asking for more tyranny. And, you know, just make sure I'm fed and I have clothing and I have health care and I got free education and all of that. I'll give up all my freedom for all of that. But guess what? You won't get any of that. You'll be sitting in the street when this economic engine collapses and crashes, and it will.
And it is.
You're going to have your misery index is going to go through the ceiling. If that Rand Paul had any integrity in his heart, he would get that mic and say, I'm turning this mic over to the champion of the Constitution, my father, Ron Paul.
That's right.
and then you see a revolution.
Yeah.
And if Romney had any sense, Ron Paul would be his running mate. Ron Paul and Ron Paul sure would say, "Hey, I'm against the wars. I'm against all these things that Romney's for, but I'm the vice president. I'm going to be the president of the Senate. I'm going around the country, and I'm going to be speaking on these principles of limited government, individual freedom, and I'm not going to knock Romney in the process. I'm just going to be, singing the tune of liberty."
Well, so it would be hard for him not knock Romney in the process. I do think that it's possible. However, the guilty Romney would look at any criticism of an agenda made by Ron Paul as a direct attack on his own character, which I think in some ways it would be a direct attack, only because Mitt Romney's a scumbag and he is unapologetic about any of these tramplings of our rights. But this is Rand Paul, man. What are you thinking? I mean, he has to already see that this is the way that they're going about. This is the GOP's plan, right? It's like, well, we can't get Ron in here, even though that would be awesome if we could get Ron in here, because he would really bring all of his supporters in, and we would probably have zero challenge against the Big O. But we can't do that because he's just, anytime he opens his mouth, it just makes us feel too bad. It makes us think about what we do too much. And we can't be seen around this guy who is constantly talking about all the bad things that we do, and us continue to still do these bad things.
You mean lock up millions of people for non-victim crimes, or you mean go over and bomb countries that have done nothing to us, and the deaths and destruction and refugees and misery and stuff that's
that's what I'm talking about, man. I'm talking about the millions of people being killed because of American imperialism.
But it's like the only good Indian's a dead Indian. That's what they used to say back in Andrew Jackson's day.
And I'm sure they apply that thing to. I'm pretty sure that the GOP, the Republican warmonger of today, would say the same thing. The only good libertarian is a dead libertarian. So we ain't letting no stinking libertarian into this tent, into our show. Hell no. They're going to stink up the place. And so, if this doesn't automatically indicate to you that Rand Paul is not a libertarian, contrary to what this article says, that he has a wide libertarian streak, obviously he doesn't, because if he did, there would not be any damn way that he would be having his name on this list, just like his father will not have his name on the list, or any other libertarian.
Well, see, Mario, people get confused when somebody who uses a utilitarian approach to government, happens to coincide with supporting liberty on an issue, but they do it because it's for utilitarian reasons. They'll say that we're safer people because we have the right to keep and bear arms. We're safer as a people. And so that's a utilitarian argument for it. The people are safer because of us having the right to bear arms, instead of you have an individual right to defend your life, your property. And that's inalienable. So that's a liberty or a libertarian approach. The other is a utilitarian approach. It's where their soul is rooted. And then most of these people, when I just saw the representatives, only 6 representatives voted against sanctions against Iran. Now, sanctions are an act of war. Sanctions are an act of war against a sovereign nation, because that nation isn't doing what you want it to do. Now, I venture to say that those 400 and some representatives in Congress couldn't even really clearly define what Iran has done that was a violation of any nuclear arms treaties or whatnot. my understanding, Ron Paul covers this really well, is that they're not even enriching uranium even to close to the 20% of what's needed for a bomb, and they're just operating within guidelines. But the thing is that
oh, what are you talking about, Mike? They're the ones responsible for all of the IEDs in Afghanistan. Iran, man, they're the ones responsible for all of the Syrian oppression. It's Iran, man. They're the ones responsible for Saddam Hussein and his having weapons of mass destruction.
And we were just trying to civilize the savages, America. That's all we're trying to do over there is civilize the savages, and show them our better way of life. So what if we have to kill off hundreds of thousands of them and maim and destroy other ones, just like the white man did the Indian on this planet? See, we had good results that come out of that. Good ends there that justify the means. So, but the point is that we've committed an act of war with sanctions.
Absolutely.
If I
killed 500,000 people in Iraq with sanctions, many of them women and children.
So if I can say I'm going to put an embargo around your house, you can't get in or out.
Or get any water in or out, yeah, we're going to starve you, is basically what they're saying.
Till you do what we want you to do. And that's it's like one of the conditions of war. It's an act of war. And so if these 400 some guys violate their oath to the Constitution, because they're supposed to declare war before they go to war. They're not just supposed to, increase the gradient of activity or actions against the sovereign nation until they're starving to death, and so they throw the first rocket, and you say, see, they're the ones that attacked us. You just keep provoking them until they got no choice.
And these people, man, they got a coexist sticker next to the man who's pushing sanctions on Iran. But we should coexist. But we should starve these people. But we should coexist. But we should rob their children of food and water. But we should how do these thoughts coexist inside of your brain? It cannot, other than you are on extremely large amounts of drugs or some other stupefying substance. Wake up!
They violate, if they have principles, they violate their principles. And they have to kind of amalgamate the guy that they're supporting into this image that they have of this guy.
Oh, yeah.
I know all people are jumping behind Obama because he's going to end the wars.
Yeah.
I'm going, if you have listened to Obama, you know he's not going to end nothing if you would listen to him. And this thing about,
30,000 troops surged into Afghanistan. But we should coexist. Well, I mean, what's wrong with you, Mario? Don't you see that Barack is just trying to help us coexist by murdering and maiming countries and not getting any type of even authorization to go to war? And now he's got the CIA in Syria because he wants us to coexist.
Yep.
It's insanity, man. It's pure insanity. It really is. And I would like if anybody who has one of those stickers on their car to hit me up, and maybe we can bring you on our show and really get to the gristle of this.
That's what we need. We need some folks in here like that we can go back and forth with,
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So,
well, I mean, Dances with Stars is on, though, at 7 o'clock on Tuesdays, Mike, so how are we going to get him over here, man?
They didn't know about that one, but the thing that the people that are supposedly somewhat in our camp, they support Ron Paul, but then they switch off to something else. And when I look at the records, and they don't give any campaign contributions, and they're not doing anything to pull the weeds out of the garden, Are they fighting traffic tickets? No. They're complaining about Obamacare, and they're begging legislators to change it,
Right.
And Obamacare hitchhikes into the Internal Revenue Code, the so-called income tax in the Internal Revenue Code, and it's actually for people that owe an income tax, that are subject to an income tax, that are liable for an income tax. Now, these people who will not do any weeding out of the Liberty Garden, they won't pull any of the weeds of tyranny, the tyrannical weeds choking out liberty. They won't get down and pull those weeds. You know, it's too much work. If they take the time to investigate, they could read my book, Tyranny Busters: The Sham and Shame of the Federal Income Tax, and they would find out that they're not subject to a federal income tax or a state income tax. They're not liable for an income tax. They don't even have income. You don't have to do a little studying. I spent 20,000 hours on studying this. They could even venture out and say, Mr. IRS agent, Mr. IRS commissioner, please give me the code section in the Internal Revenue Code that imposes a tax on me for, I work for a living, and I'd like to know, what makes you entitled to take the fruits of my labor. Where's the law?
What's the definition of income?
What's the definition of income? Get that, ask them for that. And they'll say everybody knows what income is. And, but, what's the constitutional definition? That income first appeared in the Constitution in 1913. What did it mean in 1913? What did the Supreme Court say it meant? And is income a direct tax or an indirect tax? And you heard people talk.
Oh, well.
You heard people talk about Obamacare tax being a direct tax. But so ask the IRS. If you get off your duff, and I know it's a lot of hard work. Call up the IRS, send them a letter. A lot of work. Let them take $1 million from your working lifetime, and a lot more misery than that. But send a letter and say, these questions, and ask them if it's a direct tax or an indirect tax. And they might write back, don't give us these frivolous tax arguments. Answer the question. I want to know, is it a direct tax or an answer the question. They can't handle the truth. So what if 100 million Americans just took the time to ask them?
What if those 50,000 people who donated to Ron Paul?
50,000. Some of them only $2, Mario. How come we didn't have a million people?
That's barely
If you
anyone.
really want a revolution,
50,000.
million people give $100. That's 100 million. Who would we be talking about now? But this whole income tax, slavery. You know what Americans don't realize? That they were the ones. Everybody I've met was the person that told the IRS that they're a taxpayer. When you went to your first job, you filled out this form. You said, "Dear IRS, I am a tax slave. You own me. Please take what you want out of my earnings because you're my master." The IRS didn't come to you and say, "Mario, you have to pay an income tax. Here's the law that says it." Do you know anybody that the IRS first did that to them?
No, I don't.
Everybody else signed this form, said, "IRS, I am a tax slave."
They taught me in the 7th grade how to fill out that form.
Did they?
Yeah.
Well, you said they didn't teach you nothing in school. Man, they taught you how to be a slave all the while thinking you were free. But yes, you are on the best plantation. But not really on the planet anymore. We used to be. Now there's other plantations that are much better.
Yeah, I mean, well, come on. You don't want to be so greedy as to think that you should always be on the best plantation. I mean, we had our golden years. 6 people against the sanctions on our war here. Mike, we got Representatives Amash, Duncan from Tennessee, Johnson from Illinois, Jones, Kucinich, and Ron Paul.
6.
6 of them, man, against the 421 people. How is this possible? How do we get such bipartisan agreement on I mean, what is Iran doing? Well, how do all these people agree on something so heinous, man?
It's the same kind of jingoism that the Nazis had for their government. Same kind. You know, it's okay if my government does it. And Americans, you know, when they're talking about their kids overseas in Afghanistan or whatever, they're going, you know, oh, hope he gets back soon. Oh, he suffered greatly over there. Oh, all the trauma. What's happening on the other side over there? They're having a cakewalk? Do we have any empathy or compassion for them?
Oh, no.
And then, you know, I got American friends that want to support and help the Wounded Warriors Foundation. And I said, well, okay, how about you do that, and at the same time you give as much time to the Veterans for Peace so we're not getting all these wounded warriors. How about if we really care about them, we don't send them off to war for the military-industrial complex or the oil industrial complex.
This jackass Tim Johnson over here, he's you know, send your kids off to here, and if you don't send your kids, man, just give us your money and we'll put it into the hands of the rebels and they'll do the job for us. Something has to be going on though, because with this whole Syria situation right now, man, it's like with Libya, it was the same thing, right? That was going on. It was the rebels that were overtaking it, and I mean, if you were hip to anything, you knew that there was, you know, Al Qaeda in these rebel groups, and I think it's Al Hassadi, who was, you know, he was a devout jihadist, and he was all about, you know, he admitted, I was in Afghanistan 6 months ago, now I'm over here in Libya. You know, I was in Afghanistan fighting against Americans, now I'm over here in Libya fighting with the help of Americans. And it didn't seem like on the news that Al Qaeda was, or that they were giving any type of light to the fact that within these rebel groups that we were giving money to, there was Al Qaeda. The news wasn't saying anything, but now I'm seeing all these in Syria, same situation. Al Qaeda's in the rebels, but it seems like the news is starting to have to pay a little bit more homage to this. On my way over here, I was just watching the news, and every channel they were talking about Al Qaeda in Syria. So I wonder, is the mainstream corporate media, are they having to be a little bit more out front with the facts because of the alternative media that's challenging them on that? Or are we ready to just accept Al Qaeda once again as our friends?
This is insanity. To say that, you know, speculate any of the nonsense about the media. The media is doing its bidding of its masters. That's
true.
Does it keep us divided and arguing with one another? And as we're arguing over the color of my Braveheart movie, where this Braveheart says, "Oh, you guys are arguing over the color of shit," you know, and that's what they're arguing over. But that's what we got on the table, and all of this is a march away from liberty. It's all marching away from any of our liberty, you know.
Well, absolutely, man, and it's any march away from our liberty is a direct march unto our bondage. So you pick a direction.
So we're gonna, I don't know, keep drilling this fact home about the Liberty Garden. You got to resist the tyranny and pull out the weeds of tyranny.
I think the DEA might come through if we keep saying Liberty Garden, man.
Yeah, Liberty Garden. Yeah, the DEA would be drug enforcement. But look, folks,
they must be growing hemp over there, those guys.
Teach everybody you can about the Fully Informed Jury Association. We can say no to the tyranny in government in the jury box. Learn about, you know, how not to be a tax slave. Learn how to fight these guys in traffic court and stop them from sucking you dry there. Learn what the law is, what the real law is, and not just for yourself. Be a distributor of this information to other people. Mario?
Read the Constitution. And the Declaration of Independence. Read it all together. Read it again. Read it a couple times. Read it to your children. Read it to your grandchildren. And read it till it makes sense. Read it till it puts perspective onto why people instituted government. Oh, that's it, Mike.
That's it.
Cool.
See you next week.
Thank you much.
Do we have anybody in the audience room?
I don't think so.
How do you
tyranny, bastard. Tyranny, 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 bastard. Tyranny, bastard. Tyranny, bastard, 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 bastard. Tyranny, bastard, 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 bastard.